What's going on, my fellow jewelers? So I want to talk to you about bubbles for resin jewelry. Bubbles are the enemy of resin jewelry, and I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. I don't hate very much in my life. I don't hate people. I don't hate certain things, but I do hate bubbles because they ruin my jewelry. So today I'm talking to you about different ways to try to eliminate your bubbles. Now, you may not be able to get rid of 100% of your bubbles, but you'll be able to get rid of almost all, if not like 99.99999%. Okay, so let's talk about the first way. After you stir your resin, one of the greatest things you can do, if you have enough patience, is put your resin to the side and wait 5 to 10 minutes. Because what happens is that your bubbles rise to the surface and you get rid of a lot of them. That's if you have enough patience. Now, if you're like me, you don't really have that much patience, and so that doesn't always work. Now, I will stir my resin first for 3 to 5 minutes, and then I'll put my resin to the side and do the things I need to do in order to prepare to pour my resin, whether I need a color, whether I need to put foil in my mold, whatever the case is. I usually stir my resin first and put it to the side because that will help the bubbles to rise. Now, another technique is using heat. Fire. Yes, you want to use fire. Some of you guys don't like using like straight up fire. I do. I find it really great. A little bit satisfying. And so I just use a lighter. That is one of my go-tos. I use a lighter and I will put it on top. You'll see bubbles along the edge. I'll put it on top and I will burn off the bubbles, especially towards the end. I'll do it right after I pour, and then I'll do it towards the end as well if more bubbles have come to the surface. Another great way to get rid of bubbles is rubbing alcohol. You take that rubbing alcohol, right? It's about 82% or higher, and then you put it in a bottle like this. And then you can either spray the mold first, which don't use it on like alcohol ink techniques because it will make the alcohol ink not spread properly. So if you're doing the alcohol ink technique, which I just did in a video just now, you don't want to spray it all. But if you're not using alcohol ink, if you're using mica powder to color it or paint to color, whatever it is, then you can use the rubbing alcohol, spray your mold, and then when you pour, you can spray it again, and it's really great. Now, the other thing about bubbles is you can also use a heat gun. A heat gun is great. That's another heat form. Now, another thing about bubbles is where you have your hole in your mold. I haven't even like taken those out yet, but you have a hole in the mold. Do you see that? This is where your hole is going to be. The bubbles like to hide around it. So make sure you take like a toothpick or something. Be careful about a toothpick because you don't want to scratch your mold, but something where you can poke softly and gently around it to get the bubbles out from the hole. Because if a bubble gets where the hole's supposed to be and it makes another hole, it's going to ruin it and you won't be able to use it because it's just one big hole and you can't put your earring together, or you can't put your necklace together. And so those are a couple of ways to get rid of your bubbles. Now, if you don't know about the different kinds of epoxy resin and you're wondering like what's best, is it the thick best, is it the thin best, then you can check out this video of mine and I go over my 2 favorite brands and what I like to use for thick epoxy techniques and what I like techniques I like to use for thin epoxy. So go ahead, check that out right now, and I'll check and I'll catch you in this next video.